Picture this: you're living your ordinary life when suddenly the impossible happens right before your eyes. Not in a dream, not in your imagination, but in broad daylight with witnesses around you. This is the reality that has shattered the worldview of millions throughout history, leaving behind mysteries so profound that even 5 centuries later, science still has no answers. What you're about to discover will challenge everything you thought you knew about the boundary between the natural and supernatural worlds. The Virgin Mary apparitions represent humanity's most documented supernatural phenomenon, witnessed by peasant children and Nobel Prize winners alike, scrutinized by skeptics and believers, yet remaining as enigmatic today as they were centuries ago. These encounters have toppled governments, converted millions, sparked scientific revolutions, and created some of the world's most visited sacred sites. But here's what makes your spine tingle. The pattern is accelerating, and the implications are staggering. December 9, 1531. The Aztec Empire lay in ruins, its people broken by conquest and disease. On a barren hill called Tepeyac, where the goddess Tenantzin once received offerings of human hearts, a middle-aged indigenous man named Juan Diego was about to become the catalyst for the most extraordinary cultural transformation in human history. What happened next would create Mexico as we know it today and leave behind physical evidence that continues to baffle scientists 500 years later. The apparition appeared at dawn, speaking to Juan Diego in his native Nahuatl language, requesting a shrine be built on that exact spot. The Spanish bishop, predictably, demanded proof. What followed was a miracle so stunning it converted 9 million indigenous people in just 10 years, the largest mass conversion in recorded history. The Virgin had instructed Juan Diego to gather roses from the barren hilltop in December, an impossibility that became reality when he found Castilian roses blooming in the frozen ground. February 11, 1858. In a small French town nestled in the Pyrenees, a 14-year-old girl named Bernadette Soubirous was collecting firewood near a grotto when she experienced something that would transform Lourdes from an obscure village into one of the world's most visited pilgrimage sites. What began as a simple vision would eventually challenge the entire medical establishment and create a phenomenon that continues to confound doctors and scientists today. Bernadette described seeing a beautiful lady in a niche above the Massabielle grotto, who spoke to her in the local Occitan dialect. Over 18 apparitions, the lady revealed herself as the Immaculate Conception and instructed Bernadette to drink from a spring that didn't exist. When the girl began digging in the muddy ground, water began to flow, water that would soon be credited with healing miracles that defy medical explanation. What makes Lourdes extraordinary isn't just the number of claimed healings, it's the rigorous scientific scrutiny applied to them. In 1883, the Catholic Church established the Lourdes Medical Bureau, staffed by doctors regardless of their religious beliefs, to investigate every claimed miraculous cure. The standards are more demanding than most medical research: complete medical documentation before and after, involvement of multiple specialists, instantaneous and permanent healing with no medical explanation, and follow-up studies lasting decades. Modern pilgrimage to Lourdes brings 6 million visitors annually, including 80,000 sick and disabled seeking healing. The town has 270 hotels, more per capita than anywhere else in France except Paris. Yet the atmosphere remains mysteriously peaceful, as if the very air carries some inexplicable calming presence. Doctors work alongside priests, wheelchairs roll through the same spaces as stretchers, and hope mingles with desperation in a dance as old as human suffering. As we examine these early apparitions, a disturbing pattern emerges that will become crucial to understanding what's coming. The Virgin Mary doesn't appear to popes or kings, to scholars or the powerful. She chooses children, peasants, the forgotten and overlooked, people society would never believe, whose testimony would be dismissed as imagination or delusion. Yet these humble witnesses become the instruments of changes that reshape entire civilizations. The messages follow a consistent theme that grows more urgent with each appearance. Calls for prayer, penance, and conversion. Warnings of coming chastisements if humanity doesn't change course. Promises of peace for those who heed the heavenly warnings. But woven through these spiritual messages are prophecies of specific historical events, wars, persecutions, political upheavals, that unfold exactly as predicted years or decades later. The awakening was complete. Heaven had established its pattern, demonstrated its power, and prepared humanity for revelations that would echo through the corridors of power in Moscow, Rome, and Washington. The stage was set for the most dramatic supernatural intervention in human history, one that would leave even the Pope trembling at secrets too terrible to reveal. The awakening was ending. The revelation was about to begin. May 13, 1917. World War I was tearing Europe apart, killing millions in trenches across France and Belgium. In Portugal, a small nation caught between warring giants, 3 shepherd children were tending their flock in a remote valley called Cova de Iria when the sky suddenly blazed with lightning on a cloudless day. What happened next would generate headlines across the globe, bring 70,000 witnesses to a barren field, and deposit secrets in the Vatican vault so explosive that popes would tremble before revealing them to the world. Lucia dos Santos, age 10, and her cousins Francisco and Jacinta Marto, ages 9 and 7, saw a beautiful lady standing above a small oak tree, more brilliant than the sun yet somehow gentle to look upon. The lady spoke only to Lucia, while the younger children saw and heard nothing, except for Francisco, who could see but not hear the apparition. This selective revelation would become crucial, as the lady was about to entrust humanity's most dangerous secrets to children too young to fully comprehend their world-shattering implications. October 13, 1917. The day that would either vindicate 3 peasant children or expose them as deluded frauds had arrived. For months, Lucia had promised that the lady would perform a great miracle, so that all may believe. The challenge was audacious. In an age when science was rapidly explaining away religious mysteries, here was a specific prediction of supernatural intervention on a predetermined date and location. Failure would not just embarrass the children, it would discredit Catholic faith across Portugal and beyond. The morning dawned gray and rainy, with heavy clouds dumping water on the thousands making pilgrimage to the remote valley. By noon, an estimated 70,000 people had gathered, believers and skeptics, reporters and government officials, doctors and scientists, all drawn by morbid curiosity to witness either a miracle or a spectacular public humiliation. The crowd included Avelino de Almeida, editor of O Século, Portugal's most anti-clerical newspaper, who had come specifically to debunk the whole affair and expose religious superstition. At precisely noon, Lucia announced that the lady was arriving, though most of the crowd saw nothing. The children conversed with their invisible visitor for several minutes while thousands watched in skeptical silence. Then Lucia suddenly cried out, "Look at the sun!" What happened next was witnessed by 70,000 people and reported by newspapers around the world, yet remains completely unexplained by science a century later. The rain stopped instantly, and the clouds parted like theater curtains to reveal the sun as a silver disk that could be looked at directly without pain or blindness, an impossibility that should have permanently damaged every retina in the crowd. The sun began to spin like a wheel, throwing off multicolored rays of light that painted the landscape in brilliant hues of red, yellow, blue, and green. People, trees, rocks, and clothing all shimmered with these impossible colors as if illuminated by a cosmic kaleidoscope. Then the sun began to dance, zigzagging across the sky in movements that violated every law of physics and astronomy. It plunged toward the earth in a terrifying spiral that sent the crowd screaming to their knees, convinced they were about to be incinerated. At the last moment, it returned to its normal position, leaving 70,000 witnesses grappling with what they had just experienced. The muddy ground was suddenly bone dry, and clothing soaked by hours of rain was mysteriously warm and completely dry. The miracle was witnessed from up to 40 kilometers away, with people in distant villages reporting the same solar phenomena at the exact same time. Meteorological stations recorded no unusual atmospheric conditions that could explain the observations. Astronomers found no gravitational disturbances that would indicate actual solar movement. Yet thousands of people, including government officials, doctors, and reporters, swore under oath they had witnessed the sun itself dance across the sky. The prophetic accuracy of Fatima's second secret is so precise it reads like a classified intelligence briefing written decades after the events occurred. The lady told the children that World War I would end soon, and indeed, the armistice was signed just 13 months later on November 11, 1918. But she warned that if people did not stop offending God, a worse war would break out during the pontificate of Pius XI, beginning with a night illuminated by an unknown light. On January 25, 1938, an aurora borealis of unprecedented intensity blazed across European skies, visible as far south as North Africa and so brilliant that fire departments across Europe responded to calls reporting massive fires on the horizon. Lucia immediately recognized this as the sign foretold at Fatima. Within months, Hitler annexed Austria, and by September 1939, World War II had begun, exactly as prophesied 21 years earlier by 3 illiterate shepherd children. The prophecy continued with promises that seemed impossible in 1917. In the end, my Immaculate Heart will triumph. The Holy Father will consecrate Russia to me, and she will be converted, and a period of peace will be granted to the world. For 70 years, this seemed like fantasy. The Soviet Union appeared permanent, godless, and unconquerable. Then in 1984, Pope John Paul II performed the requested consecration of Russia, and within 5 years, the Berlin Wall fell, the Soviet Union collapsed, and Russia began returning to Orthodox Christianity. Most remarkably, the prophecies included warnings about specific papal persecution. The children were told that the Holy Father would suffer greatly and that many clergy would be martyred. Throughout the 20th century, popes faced assassination attempts, communist persecution reached its peak, and thousands of priests and nuns were executed behind the Iron Curtain, exactly as foretold by 3 peasant children who had never heard of communism or nuclear weapons. June 24, 1981. In communist Yugoslavia, where religion was brutally suppressed and expressing faith could mean imprisonment or death, 6 teenagers on a hillside near the village of Medjugorje claimed they were seeing the Virgin Mary. The timing seemed impossibly dangerous, a supernatural rebellion against an atheist state that had crushed every form of religious expression. Yet what began as children's claims would eventually draw millions of pilgrims, survive government persecution, outlast the communist regime, and continue daily for over 4 decades. The visionaries, Ivanka Ivankovic, Mirjana Dragicevic, Vika Ivankovic, Ivan Dragicevic, Maria Pavlovich, and Jack of Colorado, ranged in age from 10 to 17 when the apparitions began. Unlike Fatima's brief 6-month series, these visions continued daily for years, creating an unprecedented opportunity for scientific investigation. Medical teams from around the world descended on this remote Balkan village to study the children during their claimed ecstatic states, producing data that defies conventional explanation. Even more bizarre, the children's eye movements during visions synchronized perfectly, following identical patterns as if tracking the same moving object, impossible if they were hallucinating or fabricating their experiences. Voice analysis showed their vocal patterns changed dramatically during visions, speaking at frequencies and rhythms completely different from their normal speech. When the apparition allegedly ended each day, all physical responses immediately returned to normal simultaneously across all visionaries. The messages from Medjugorje emphasized prayer, fasting, peace, conversion, and penance, themes consistent with previous Marian apparitions. But they also included specific prophecies about the end of communism years before anyone imagined the Berlin Wall would fall. The visionaries were told that Russia would glorify God the most, that the Church would experience great trials, and that 10 secrets would be revealed about humanity's future, secrets so serious that when the first is revealed, the skeptical world will have only days to prepare for what's coming. What makes Medjugorje particularly unsettling is its ongoing nature. Unlike historical apparitions that can be safely relegated to the past, these visions continue daily, meaning the messages are contemporary and the prophecies are still unfolding. 3 of the original visionaries still receive daily messages, while the others receive annual visions, creating a living laboratory for studying supernatural phenomena under controlled conditions. The village has been transformed from a forgotten mountain community into one of the world's most visited pilgrimage sites, with over 40 million visitors since 1981. Hotels, restaurants, and religious shops have replaced subsistence farming, yet the supernatural atmosphere intensifies rather than diminishes with commercialization. Millions report healings, conversions, and mystical experiences that occur nowhere else on Earth with such consistency and frequency. The children chosen as visionaries are getting younger and more numerous. Guadalupe chose one adult indigenous man. Lourdes selected one teenage girl. Fatima entrusted secrets to 3 children. Medjugorje began with 6 teenagers. Each apparition site becomes more internationally significant than the last, drawing increasingly larger crowds and generating more global attention through modern media. Most disturbing is the escalation in prophetic content. Early apparitions focused on local concerns, indigenous conversion, personal healing, regional devotions. Modern apparitions predict world wars, political upheavals, and global catastrophes with terrifying accuracy. The secrets given to visionaries become increasingly dangerous, so explosive that Vatican officials lock them in safes and presidents of nations seek private briefings on their contents. Fatima's prophecies directly influenced the Cold War's outcome in ways that intelligence agencies are still studying. When the visionary Lucia revealed that Russia's consecration would lead to its conversion and the spread of peace, Vatican diplomats began secret negotiations with Soviet officials decades before Glasnost. Pope John Paul II 1984 consecration of Russia preceded the Berlin Wall's fall by exactly 5 years, a geopolitical transformation that caught CIA analysts completely off guard but matched Fatima's prophecies with mathematical precision. The Lourdes International Medical Association, established in 1947, represents the most rigorous scientific investigation of miraculous healings in history. Their standards exceed those of most medical journals. Complete documentation before and after the healing, involvement of multiple independent specialists, instantaneous and permanent recovery with no natural explanation, and follow-up studies extending decades to confirm the cure's permanence. Of thousands of claimed healings investigated, they've authenticated only 70 as scientifically inexplicable miracles. The collision between ancient apparitions and modern technology is creating a perfect storm of global transformation that nobody predicted. Social media amplifies apparition messages instantly to billions, while smartphones document miraculous phenomena in real time, creating viral evidence that spreads faster than any attempts to debunk it. The result is a worldwide awakening to supernatural reality that traditional institutions cannot control or suppress. But authentic apparition sites are adapting to digital reality in ways that enhance rather than diminish their supernatural credibility. Live cameras at Medjugorje have captured unexplained phenomena witnessed simultaneously by millions online. Lights appearing over the church, the sun spinning during scheduled apparition times, and synchronized crowd behaviors that suggest genuine supernatural intervention. The technology intended to debunk miracles is instead documenting them for global audiences. The third secret of Fatima, partially revealed by Pope John Paul II in 2000, described a vision of a pope shot with bullets and arrows amid widespread persecution of the Church. While the Vatican claimed this referred to the 1981 assassination attempt on John Paul II, many scholars argue the full secret describes future events far more catastrophic than one failed assassination. Sister Lucia insisted before her death that the chastisement foretold at Fatima had not yet occurred and would involve fire from the sky that would consume nations. Medjugorje's 10 secrets, given individually to each visionary, reportedly describe a sequence of events that will convince the skeptical world of supernatural reality, but at a terrible cost. The visionaries have revealed that the first secret will serve as a warning, the second and third will be regional chastisements, and subsequent secrets escalate to global catastrophes that will fundamentally alter human existence. Mirjana Dragicevic has stated that when the first secret is revealed, humanity will have only days to prepare for what follows. The promised triumph of the Immaculate Heart. That concludes the Fatima prophecies describes a period of worldwide peace following these chastisements, but only after events so traumatic they will eliminate current political, economic, and social structures completely. This isn't gradual reform but complete civilizational collapse followed by reconstruction under principles revealed through apparitions. The promise offers hope, but only through apocalyptic transformation that few are prepared to experience. The transformation is no longer coming, it has arrived. The only question remaining is whether we recognize it before it's too late to choose our response. The children who first saw the impossible continue calling from their graves, their voices echoing through centuries. Pray, do penance, and be converted, for the time of mercy is ending, and the hour of justice is at hand. The choice is ours. The consequences are eternal. The time is now.